fuck, that started way too quickly. I want to try again. Okay, there we go. Hello, I am Punchy. This is a recorded commentary type thing of the current Silent Hil 1 good plus ending world record video. I'm running a split timer alongside it, even though they're going to match perfectly. So the good plus ending, it's not any percent, but it's not that different from any percent. Cheryl. For people who are not familiar with this game, Cheryl? To like understand what the category even is, the good plus ending is the best ending you can get in this game, and in order to get it, you have to embark on a side quest that occurs in the middle of the game, and all that stuff. So like, it's not quite any percent, but I wanted to commentate the latest run I did, so that it would be like the most up to date. So right at the start, if you like edge to the right of the sidewalk and kind of hit this on the corner, the game takes control off you slightly earlier than it would otherwise and runs Harry further into the alleyway, so you save like 1 second IGT that way-ish, that way. That's the only thing I've ever found in this game, by the way. That's like the only quirk. Otherwise, I just copy everyone else's shit. That's how Punchy do, that's my style. So like, when did I set this run? I set it like a couple of months back or something, and this was like sometime after the new Out of Bounds tech got discovered. So, like, it's a reasonably solid time for this. I don't think it's going to stand, like, forever or anything like that, but it's plenty good for now, so that's why I'm, like, doing this commentary type thing. Plus, I've always wanted to try one of these. So, the key to a Silent Hil run at the start, and this is actually a recurring thing across the series, is that you have to die straight away. And whether or not you die is mostly random. It's bullshit. It's not based on difficulty, because how fast you die doesn't seem to matter, regardless of your difficulty. Whether or not they grab you and stab you, like that, also does whatever. That's a reasonably quickish death. You can get faster. So immediately you equip the handgun, because this is the only thing in the game you kill with a handgun. I managed to get past the health drink there. It's hard to like maneuver past the health drink to get the flashlight and map without picking up the health drink, but you don't want it. You don't need it. If you do the run correctly, you should be able to get through the entire thing without healing once. If you're, like, newer to the game or something, you can grab a health drink and, like, heal up some damage or whatever, it's fine. Easy mode, like, it's easy, so you don't need much health to work with it. So this first air screamer that appears, this is the only thing you ever fight with a pistol. It can take anywhere between, like, 4 and 6 shots. That's 5, that's in the middle. 5 is fine. But the difference between, like, a 4-shot and a 6-shot is, like, a second, so, like, it can matter. See, and then I did, like, a slight walk coming. You see, like, the pause there. The pause looks janky, but it's faster. It looks like, oh, he stopped moving. That's not good at all. But if you keep running, because Harry... This game has, like, tank control movement with, like, momentum and stuff. So, like, if you try and bank turns too hard, you'll, like, hit the wall. You need to give yourself time to turn, whereas, like... slowly moving and turning is often more efficient than just running the entire time. Walking, in other words, is an underrated movement action in this game that more people should do. It's counterintuitively better, and that is a stumble cancel. I call that a stumble cancel because I'm weird, no one else does. Harry has a certain acceleration, where if he runs straight forward for enough time, he'll reach a certain speed, and then if you stop suddenly, he doesn't stop immediately. He stumbles. He has a braking distance. That doesn't happen if you're not running forward enough for a certain period of time. Like, if you just run for a short period, it won't happen. But otherwise, that is also what causes you to, like, to bonk on walls and doors and shit like that. So, but other item pickups can cancel that stumble animation, like right there. And then you can quick turn. Another note about quick turning is that, hello, I have a controller here. Quick turning is done by pressing the strafe buttons, both of them, L1 and R1 together. But if you are having the walk active while you're doing it, like I play this game with walk, run, reverse control on, like there's to explain that, there's a control option in the options menu where normally you walk when you press forward and have to hold a button to run. If you have the option enabled, it's the other way around. So you run by default and have to hold a button to walk. Reverse is much better for speedruns, obviously, because you very rarely don't want to be running. But anyway, if you have that down, you hold down the button that makes you walk, and then you tap the quick turn button exactly like that, which makes the frame window for getting a quick turn much more lenient, because otherwise getting a quick turn to come out when you're running, like in the run state, It's very hard. It's a very tight window. It's like... It's a few frames. Like, it's not enough. Whereas if you're, like... If you hold the walk button down and then do it, you would be able to get... You get much more leniency on it, which makes it easier to do. That trick was actually discovered... I say trick. That trick was discovered by Samuka Brazilian, actually, or it was at least imparted upon us by Samuka Brazilian. Because previously in the game's running history... This is really embarrassing, but I didn't believe that he could get so many quick turns in a row so consistently, because previously no one was getting these things consistently whatsoever. It was just not a thing. It wasn't the dumb thing at all. So, like, he would go, like, many runs with no failed quick turns, whereas, like, I would, like, benchmark my runs by how many failed quick turns occurred, and at one point I, like, got sick of it and called bullshit, and I was like, there is no fucking way you're doing all of these, you are using a macro. Bullshit. I accused him of cheating, basically, is what I did. I accused him of cheating. I was wrong, because he then pretty much immediately was like, you do it like this, and I was like, right, okay. And I apologized, and I was like, okay, shit, I was wrong. Ooh, do I get the corner hit? I do. That's a weird one, that. The corner door hit, where if you hit that door at a certain side-on angle, you don't bonk against it, but you also don't have to slow down. It requires a very specific turn angle to get it, and it saves, like, very minimal time, but I still did it. I still did it, and it's worth it. Oh yeah, here's the thing of Silent Hil runs. Flashlight on or off. Very important, and Silent Hil 1 is like a particularly dark video game, like even compared to its contemporaries, and compared to other games in its series, it's dark as all hell. So very often you have to navigate sequences in this game entirely in the dark, and trust me, that's not your set. I can't see anything either. It's just like that. I've just memorized the lay of the land at this point. It's very easy to bump cars in the street when you're doing this, because you can't see them. See, like, I kind of just brushed past one there, you saw that, like, that white block float past the vision. That's a car. It's really easy to run into that if you don't know it's there, because you can't see what you're doing. It's fabulous, that. So we run to the school, we have bypassed all enemy aggro. Dogs, there's dogs in front of the school. Dogs basically can't hit you as long as you're running in a straight line. Like, they'll try, they'll miss. So here's another minor. I turn slightly before I hit the door because it prevents Harry from walking when he reaches the door. If you run straight at those doors, Harry will walk when he gets in range, but if you turn, he doesn't. Like that as well. This is an enemy manipulation. If you bank left and then bank right and then turn left, you'll get past that enemy like 99% of the time. It's not 100% consistent, and nothing in this game is 100% consistent, because every single time you enter a room, enemies, the facing direction of an enemy, like enemies will spawn in the same place, but what direction they're facing will change. And it can be like literally anything in a circle in 360 degrees. Most angles for that dodge work. Most, not all. And certain angles will make that dodge require tighter or like can be taken more smoothly style of movement. Like, so you have a light off here, he wanders to the left. That's good RNG. It's common. It's very rare that he gives you bad enough RNG that he actually hits you, but it does happen. Because sometimes he'll just randomly pick the exact angle where he happens to intersect you, at which point he'll punch you in the face, which you don't want. So you do the movement again, you bank left, you turn right. See, he's a bit more to the right there, so I had to take it a bit more tight. So that's how it goes. Same thing with here, like this is also fairly consistent. He's on the right end of the hallway, which is uncommon. He's normally on the left. But you can get through it anyway. So then we do the piano puzzle, and here's a fun quirk about the any puzzle in this game involving a mouse cursor style movement like this is the analog stick is faster. The analog stick causes the cursor to physically move quicker. And it's universally true for all versions of this game, for all puzzles in the game. The analog stick is just faster. Which incidentally means that you either need a controller with analog sticks, or you need to not play the PSP version. So this manipulation's weird. I like to walk one step, turn the light off, and then bank hard right, and that usually gets you through, but again, it's not 100% consistent, because there is no way to make any dodge in this game 100% consistent. It's mostly consistent. It's like 9 out of 10. So then we hit the basement, and so far this has been a 0-hit school, which is ideal. So, obviously you don't want to take hits because it's slow, but also you have limited like pool of health to work with, and how much health you manage to get through the school with determines how reckless you can be later on. I'm pretty sure I get... yeah, okay, it's a 0-hit school. So he kind of took a lunge at me there, but he missed. That's also a fairly common outcome of these things. But it can go it can go in a lot of different ways, and sometimes the dice don't land the right way up, and you get owned. Just realised I'm controlling the splits here. It's going to be like plus zeros all the way down. Say we just run through sets of doors and what have you. Doors are an interesting beast in this game, how to handle them comprises a surprisingly large element of how Silent Hill speedrunning works. I've ranted about this topic before. Here's another like spicy rando dodge. You just run straight forward. This works most of the time. Most of the time. But again, nothing's guaranteed. It's just the most effective approach I've found. But yeah, doors in this game are quite particular, on average, about how they work. Because like I said earlier, if you get a certain amount of running distance up to them, you're likely to bash your face into them, like you bonk them. And when you bonk them, you lose time, because sometimes the doors don't let you open them. But which doors aren't favourable to bonking and which ones don't care varies on no consistent basis. You basically just have to memorize how every single door in the game behaves. There are certain movement techniques that you can use to, because turning slightly before you hit a door reduces the incidences of bonking and all that sort of thing. But really, you kind of just have to memorize every individual door. It's very weird. I made a tutorial on this game a while back that actually did literally go through every single door and how it worked. So this piece of movement here, see, I turn tightly to enter that door. This room has 2 entrances. I tested that. I tested every variant of movement for this particular piece. Also, this is that's unclean. It wasn't super bad, but that's not great. It's like a second or 2. But I tested every variant of movement going to this key and back to the stairwell. And there's a lot of variants of movements, and I'm dead certain that this particular variant that I do is the fastest series of lines that you can get through this room. And overall, the differences between the various lines I tested were no more than like half a second. But it's still worth it, because it's half a second you don't get otherwise, and this game operates on razor-thin margins. Another juke past an enemy. You have to tilt to the right on that one and then pull back a little bit and then tilt right. That one I tilt very hard right into the wall. That possibly actually loses me a slight bit of time because I'm then running into the wall instead of straight forward. But he's easily disturbed, that enemy. Do I get the stumble cancel on the hole? Not quite. Not the worst thing ever. You can kind of land straight on that hole if you turn very tightly and decelerate at exactly the right time, but it's very difficult to pull off. Equip the shotgun while you're in the menu because man's got time to do that sort of thing. And now we have a valve cutscene. Most cutscenes in this game are skippable. This one isn't. I don't know why. Same goes for the UFO ending cutscenes that you get, where you use the channeling stone and get like the UFO to appear in specific places to get the UFO ending. Those ones aren't skippable. I don't know why. Because pretty much everything else is. I guess they just really wanted us to examine Harry's turning a valve? Beats me. So you see I turn towards, I take that door at like a not straight angle, because going straight outdoors is trouble. You'll bonk doors, and then you'll not want to bonk doors, because it loses time. So every single time I appear to be taking a door at like a slightly skew-whiff angle, odds are good I'm doing that on purpose in order to prevent bonking. Like, pretty much 100% of the time. Since the controls in this game are very deliberate, like, Harry doesn't turn on a dime, he can't transition smoothly from, like, a strafe to a run, and he can't snap in a direction like any of the later game control schemes allow you to. Every move has to be fairly well considered. Which I think makes the game an interesting speedrun. Like, if you're the sort of dork who gets really into tank control speedruns and their minutiae, of course. Maybe not the most exciting to a general audience, but I think it's interesting because it's unique amongst its peers as a tank control game. It's a bit like driving a car, like in a racing game, because you have to consider like braking distances and speed of turns and stupid shit like that. So this valve's a good one. The valves are lined up like so. They are parallel. So, you want to strafe between them? And that's hard. And I don't get it. If you're precise enough, you can land directly in front of the valve and then immediately skip that, but running straight forward isn't, like, a big deal. Doesn't lose much time. Like, so far there's been, like, some minor movement errors, but, like, it's very minor overall. There's been nothing major. It's very clean so far. Like, this is a good run. It's not the greatest run, but it's a good run. It's like, you can see it because I've got, like, the possible time save up on my splits right now. This is PB that I'm comparing against, so it is this run that I'm comparing against. The splits will all be 0 all the way down. But I have the splits here to demonstrate the possible time save open. 5 seconds. Which actually sounds kind of high to me, but I'll believe it. 5 seconds. So there's about 5 seconds worth of movement going on there. Which, yeah, sounds about right. But bear in mind, like, that doesn't translate linearly into IGT. Silent Hil is timed with the in-game timer. And real-time, like, it's timed with the in-game timer because real-time can be a bit funny. Sometimes, like, load times vary. Among other things. So that's the school completed. The school is probably one of the more denser locations in this game for like dodges and fine understanding of the movement techniques and the very oddly specific minutiae of how the game likes to open doors. So it's one of the tougher areas to get to grips with at first, which is a bit strange considering it's like literally the first one. Like most runs reset in the school because there's quite a lot of things that can go tits up in it. Dog still can't hit you if you're running forward, haha. Key doors in general, right? Doors that has to be opened with a key don't usually care very much about whether you bonk into them or not. Like this door doesn't, for instance. See, there's a bonk, doesn't matter, passes through. Oh yeah, those of you who are familiar with this game might notice the lack of screen transitions. Like normally when you open a door it's supposed to fade out naturally in sort of like a black diamond pattern. The reason for that absence is that I'm playing the game on the PS TV, the PlayStation TV, which is kind of like a Vita mini console thing that Sony put out sometime in like 2012, I think. I'm not actually sure. It's a pretty obscure-ish console. Like it's obscure enough that I have to click Show Obscure on Speedrun.com in order to have it appear on the platform list. But the benefits of running on PS TV is that A, it's an official release of the game, because like you can download this off the PSN. If you have an American copy of this game at all, you're good to go. Like you don't need specific hardware. I bought a PS TV because it was my personal preference to do so. You do not need one. I don't even recommend it, but you don't need one. I run on it because it was cheaper than getting an American PS2. But the PS TV's advantages are some for speedrunning. Do I get the chapel door? I don't. That door is interesting because it only works if you hit it at a very specific angle, and I beefed that angle. It's only like half a second, but I still didn't hit it, which is sad. It's a very, very specific angle. You need to be like facing more to the right. The PS TV, though, it's flash memory, like the PSP and like the Vita, so PS1 games tend to load pretty fast off it, which is not relevant for Silent Hil 1 because the in-game timer does not count loads at all. So, like, any copy of this game will do. It doesn't really matter what the platform is, just any copy. But I like that for, like, bashing out more attempts, because this game does load a lot. Do I get Control Room Tower smoothly? Yes, I do. It was a bit around the edges. Okay, so, like, Control Room Tower is an issue, because the frame rate in this room is, like, -2. It runs like crap. It drops inputs all the fucking time. It sucks. So, getting a smooth line to the control panel to use the key can be quite difficult. I did not split. That line that I took through the control room was very, like, around the edges. It was very semicircular, which is not the cleanest line. Ideally, you want, like, just sort of a straight line with a slight bump in it. But it'll do. Like, as long as you don't get stuck. It's very easy to get stuck on a weird corner, or, like, fail to get in entirely, or to just have the game wiggle you in place because it's not registering your forward input, which is a thing that happens sometimes for reasons I don't get. It's harder than it looks. That room is actually genuinely difficult to move around in. It doesn't seem it, but it is. Such things are one of the quirks of Silent Hil 1. But it's a very quirky game, this is. Immediate quick turn. So, in the hospital, because this is the good plus ending, and we get the best ending, you need to pick up the optional red liquid item, but picking up the optional red liquid item is also faster anyway, because it skips a boss fight with a glitch that we do. Like, this run is not glitchless. It's mostly glitchless, but it's not entirely glitchless. In fact, there's a pretty fucking show-stopping one in this run, but nevertheless. You still gotta get it, and you get this on any percent as well, because like I said, it's faster, but since this is best ending, you'd have to do it anyway. It's relatively simple to pick it up and get a move on, at least. So the cue I use there for when to quick turn, because if you do it too early you'll miss, is when Harry starts to like breathe again. You'll see his chest, like he'll breathe and his body will start moving again as like he enters his animation. And so that's when I start, like, I look for that and I'll go, okay. You also have to use the doors on both floors before the fourth floor will appear for you to go to, because it's spooky. And that's a good time to bring up the fact that when I play this game, I actually use custom control bindings. Like, most runners use default, I don't, because I'm weird. I actually have the triangle button as a dedicated text skipping and cutscene skipping button, which is really good for that specific instance, because what you do is you walk up to a door, you press X to examine the door, and then you double tap triangle. Because it will then immediately, the first tap will draw all the text to the screen, the second tap will dismiss it, and then you can get a move with your life. Whereas if you have it bound to X, if you double tap it, you might accidentally hit the door twice, and that would suck. Okay, we're on. Okay, good RNG on this one. I imagine it's good RNG after all, it's the world record. But nurses can block you at that door based on the whims of fate, and they can also grab you on the way out if they are feeling sufficiently dickish. This run probably has no, like, nurse grabs or anything, because getting nurse grabbed loses you a absolute shit ton of time, and this run is world record, which means it probably didn't. But it's a thing that can happen. There are, like, 3 particularly painful spots where getting, like, less than stellar RNG can seriously damage you. It's one of those games, unfortunately. Sometimes you can do everything right and still not gain time because enemies just consistently got in your way. Survival horror games. It's just how they go sometimes. Collecting key items for later. This room's hitbox is one of the only things where you could just take one step into the room and then immediately use an item and Harry will just snap into place. Normally, using items in this game, and in fact across the series, requires very specific positioning, possibly too specific, whereas that room, for whatever reason, is just very forgiving about it. Do it from anywhere, it's fine. So we solve a puzzle, and this is a divergence of Silent Hil 1 from the rest of the games in the series. The puzzles are the same regardless of your difficulty. They also aren't random in any way. Whereas Silent Hil 2 and 3 have puzzles that both vary by difficulty and are also random. The solution's randomized, whereas Silent Hil 1s are always fixed. This doesn't help as much as you'd think, because Silent Hil 2 and 3 have an abundance of, like, sort of random door codes and, like, letter combinations and things like that. Whereas Silent Hil 1 is mostly just puzzle pieces, which means even if you did know the solution, it wouldn't really be possible to skip ahead if you had it. Yeah, and that nurse I killed slightly early with 2 shotgun shells is, like, one of the 2 regular enemies you kill in this run. One of 3, actually. 1 air screamer at the start, 2 nurses. And that 2 shots that you pop to kill the nurse is also a relevant thing, because the ammo routing is not super tight in this category in this route that I'm using, but it is super tight now because I've since refined it since this record came out. But like the way I refined it only says like 3 seconds, so I've not actually managed to put out a new run using it yet, but whatever, in due time. In fact, that's the reason I started running this category after the out of bounds glitch got found, because it made the ammo route less tight. See, previously Good Plus as a category, before the out of bounds was discovered, had an issue where runs would very often die to the final boss on, like, coin flip odds because you would run out of ammo in the middle of the fight and you just wouldn't kill the final boss, and there was no explanation for why this occurred. We did not know. However, two things conspired to change this. One, we rerouted the game to have different ammo since the out of bounds came and enabled us to skip a boss fight, which enabled us to save ammo. Two, I learned Japanese. Now why is that relevant, you may ask? Because we discovered final boss HP isn't random. We knew this already. Like, it's a fixed value. So why were our shots doing different amounts of damage? I'll save the explanation for that for later, but think on that. So there's the second box of shotgun shells that we pick up. If I were using the updated ammo route that I discovered after I, like, used my Japan knowledge to divine the solution to the final boss's bullshit, I wouldn't pick up a third box, but this run does pick up a third box because it is slightly outdated, but, like, picking up a third box doesn't really take that much time. I'd say it's like 2 or 3 seconds. At most. Maybe less than that.
Was I dreaming?
So, next we have the out of bounds, and the out of bounds requires some explanation. The out of bounds is a relatively newly discovered trick in this game. Relatively newly discovered. Like, a few months back now, I think. Couple, maybe 3, something like that. From date of recording. It saves about a minute. It enables you to skip over a boss fight completely, the Twin Feeler boss fight, where there's a little caterpillar dude running around who you shoot in the face. And that fight normally takes 6 shotgun shells to kill. If you're very good, you can get it in 5, but usually 6. So if you skip that fight, you save 6 shotgun shells, which obviously makes the ammo route much more lenient by default. So that enabled Good Plus to become more consistent already. Then I figured out the true reason to make it consistent, but that's the story that I'll get into later. So the way the out of bounds is actually performed is that you need to get hit by an enemy called a romper. They're like these monkey dudes who bounce around and stuff. You need to get hit by a romper in a very specific way into a loading transition, not a loading zone, a transition. This is a loading transition. It's not a load. It doesn't load anything new. It changes the scene. Because if you actually do get knocked over into a real load, like a door, you will lose the effect. But what it does is when you get knocked over into that load by a romper in exactly the right way, and it's very, very particular, the position offset is such that you start to be able to walk through walls, and then you can just leave, and then you can walk to the hospital straight away from the antique shop, which skips over the entire middle section of the game. It's also a much faster walking route if you just go straight rather than, like, going around the entire town. So, and I'm pretty sure this is second try because I have never gotten first try in a run ever. It's really hard to do, like, the setup is weird, it's not consistent, and it's based on enemy RNG, so, like, the romper will bounce towards me. He missed. Of course he misses. He sucks. Whether or not this works is, like, it's like 30% execution on your half and, like, 70% execution on the game's half, but I got it second try, which is relatively quick. So off I go. You just need to run straight forward once you clip out of bounds. You just run through the door, like through it. Don't go through the door, run through it. Do not interact with it, because then you'll lose the effect. And just go straight. And when you go straight, you will arrive at the... I think it's the post office roof, it calls it, which is... It's a weird looking post office roof, but sure. The light goes off here because, like, I'm flashing it on and off, because that air screamer can actually hit you in midair. And then when you go down, you appear on the bottom floor, like, down the stairs without actually going down the stairs. I don't know why that happens. That's mysterious to me. So that's the out of bounds. That saves like a minute. That skips over an entire boss fight and a whole lot of running. But it only skips that if you actually get it within, like, the first 4 or so tries. Otherwise, you're not saving time. And whether or not you are even allowed to get the trick is not consistent. Sometimes I will go literally minutes and not get it once, and there's just shit all you can do about it. Silent Hil. So this boss fight, Float Stinger. He's a strange one. You can't ammo dump him. Bad dodge. You can't ammo dump him. If you fire your gun too quickly, you won't damage him enough successfully, because he has iframes, you see. He has, like, a certain flinching animation that you're not... Like, you can see now that I've turned the camera up a bit. So that's fine. I took that hit on purpose. I play recklessly on this fight because I think it's better. But I'm very close to him. I am shooting well. I think that's a 12 shot. I'm not 100% certain. I wasn't counting. It doesn't matter for this route. But you need to be close to him, and you need to pace your shots properly. If you dump, you won't kill. And since you have a limited ammo pool to work with, you need to kill in as few shots as possible. Ideally, for a human, you can consistently get 12. If you, like, beef a shot or something, you can get 13, but you need to be close, because the shotgun is obviously the best at short range. It's the most powerful weapon in the game at short range, actually. It's better than the rifle at short range by quite a bit. Atas has managed to get an 11 shot. I've managed to get an 11 shot once. Like, ever. I have no idea how I did it, and I don't think I'd ever be able to do it again. Hurrah, I'm ahead of the run that I'm comparing against somehow. Splits. So there's little bits of time that I could say have dotted all throughout this run in terms of... It's not a perfect run by any stretch of the imagination, no run ever is. But it's like good enough. So that also requires a shot to open, or it doesn't require a shot. You can use a melee weapon, but going into the menu to select a melee weapon would take too long, so I just shoot it open. And that's one less bullet I don't get to have against the final boss, and that has to be factored into your ammo route. Which at this point the ammo route can be worked out mathematically, like you can work it out on paper. Because the number of shots is so well defined. Okay, so sewers is a strong, like, random point. Getting hit first there is not good. That is bad RNG. Ideally, if you get super good RNG, you can take no hits through the entire sewer. Getting the dodge is good. If you manage to barge past one of those green guys called scratches, then you save time. Yay! If you get hit too much, A, you lose health, which if you're in a bad way already can literally kill you, and also you lose time. Getting a 0 hit is a bit rare. It's not, like, super rare, but it's not, like, common. 1 hit is fairly standard. Like, that's acceptable. It's stock. Getting 2 hits is, like, pretty poor. Getting 3 is, like, laughable. Like, that sucks. It happens, but that sucks. That guy will never hit you if you run straight. Never ever. And the third dodge is the one that can be the dodgiest because, the dodgiest dodge. The position varies pretty significantly. Like, he's all the way over there. He ran to the left for some reason. This dodge is consistent if you do it right. If you turn left, and you have to turn left way earlier than you think you do to get back around it, but not so early that you actually bump the enemy entirely and get stuck on him. That dodge is consistent if done correctly. Which, like, reduces the RNG of that section quite significantly, because previously our approach to that room was to just try and, like, shoulder barge past the guy, which works sometimes. Sometimes you can push past him, but A, it's slower than dodging around him anyway, and also, if he blocks you, you're gonna eat a hit, and you're also gonna eat, like, a shit ton of time loss as he blocks you for quite a while. So juking around him works out better on all fronts. It's less random, and it's faster. Lovely. Also, I think that's a me strat. I think I actually came up with that one. I don't know if anyone else does it. I've never looked. Maybe I should find out. Whatever. So these doors I'm also all hitting on the corners because they're also doors that don't really like it when you bonk them, so I hit them on corners in order to make that be less of an issue. It's one of the fun little quirks. You like, again, more of a to the side corner hit. It's a recurring trend across the speedrun. I think this one I do a walk towards. Yeah, I do. I stopped briefly to walk because trying to hit the corner of that one was repeatedly giving me grief, and screwing it up loses you more time than just doing a walk briefly to, like, reset the bonk acceleration counter thing. I don't have good terms for this. I haven't written, like, the Silent Hil lexicon yet. Like, I can't even get stumble cancel to catch on. So we just take the same rooms that we did before, but in reverse. There's also an element of RNG going on here because there's cockroaches in these rooms, and, like, they can block you. It's pretty rare that they do. They can, though. It's possible. I've seen it. I've experienced it personally many times. I handled that well. I took that last door at the corner very cleanly, but the direction in which that guy moves is also random. So this area is where good plus branches from any percent. Up to now it's been any percent, just all the way through. This is the point where it's different, because if at any percent I would run straight and then to the right and continue without giving a single crap about what's in this area. But because it's good plus, I have to complete the Kaufman side quest. So first I need to get Kaufman's wallet, which he drops in this bar. And that's painful. I tried to stop it earlier, but, like, it kind of keeps going a bit long if you hold it for slightly too long, because, again, Harry has, like, a braking distance on him, which is unfortunate, but it's a thing. So once you have the Kaufman wallet, you have the Kaufman key, and you also get a receipt that's got a number on it, and you're supposed to go to, like, a different building and then, like, use the number on a safe that will then give you another number that you can use on the motel. This is the one instance where the non-random puzzle generation actually allows you to skip ahead in the sequence somewhat, because if you already know the code to enter the motel, you can just go to the motel. You don't need to fuck about in the Indian Runner, just go. So that's what I do. The code is 0886, incidentally. So the point of this side quest is that we need to discover a hidden vial of red liquid hidden inside Kaufman's motorcycle. How you're supposed to know this, I don't know. It's been a while. I don't remember the logical context for this sequence of events. And without context, there's no reason for Harry to go screwing around looking for things inside people's motorbikes. I'm sure there's a reason, I just don't remember what it is. So we get the motorcycle key, which is hidden in a hole in the floor that you have to access by dangling a magnet on a string through a hole that you find by pushing a shelf. Silent Hill's weird. This all seemed very logical when I first did it. Straight in front of the motorcycle, and you have to time the menu there properly, otherwise you'll miss. Like, the hitbox where you can do that is very specific. See, and then I get the third box of shotgun shells. I would not grab that if I were using the new and updated ammo route that I finally managed to nail down once I figured out how the final boss actually ticks in terms of how it takes damage from my superior learning of the Japan language. Which, since this is all just a bunch of running, I guess I can get into that now. This is the Silent Hill Perfect Navigation Book. It's a Japanese strategy guide written by several writers of Famitsu, and I think it's official guidebook. Like, it's approved by Konami, so that doesn't really mean a whole lot given the sort of ridiculous bullshit that slips into Konami's official strategy guides a lot of the time. However, it's a Japanese strategy guide, right? So it's entirely in Japanese. But fortunately, I actually know Japanese a bit, so I was able to make some sense of it. And the key point of the strategy guide, I don't know why I'm trying to find the sentence, but I am, is that basically the book mentions that the final boss takes increased damage if you hit him while he's charging one of his attacks, and he doesn't do that attack straight away, so you have to delay it slightly, and then wait for a specific timing, and then shoot him, and you do, I think it was, I don't remember the exact number, and I can't find it in the book. I'm gonna try, though, because this section's just running. It's here somewhere, I promise. Please bear with me. Ah ha 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 ha. It's 10 times damage. It is 10 times damage if you hit him while he is charging lightning. That is what you get. Which means that if you time your stuff properly, you can kill the final boss in 6 shotgun shells, if, they're impeccably spaced. It's possible. It's not likely. It's possible. But it's much more easier and, much more consistent, basically guaranteed, if you time it properly to get it within 7 or 8. Which makes the, ammo route perfectly consistent. Which means you can always get, a quick kill on the final boss no matter what happens, provided you actually know what you're doing. If you spam shots blindly, yes, you're introducing randomness in. If you actually pace your shots properly, you'll be fine. But this information wasn't known to the English speedrunning world of Silent Hill until I actually started reading this thing. Because, it's not obvious. We didn't know why it was doing that. I don't think it's listed in any of the English guidebooks. If it was, we overlooked them. I only noticed because I read this particular book and translated it and was like, oh, this is a thing. Cool. Because I know, I won't actually bother trying to, read this out on stream because I'm embarrassed by my pronunciation. But still, this guidebook contains a lot of interesting information about this game that isn't seemingly listed in any other of Western material. It's got information like Harry's run speed. Missing a split because I'm bad, but it doesn't matter. So, Harry's, for instance, Harry's health is 100, but playing on easy gives all damage taken, a 0.75 modifier. So obviously it's reduced by 25%, effectively. Hard mode, it increases by 50%, which is pretty brutal, which is why you die really fast in hard mode. And also means that one of the attacks by one of the boss characters does 90 damage out of 100, which means it can absolutely kill you from green, which is BS. It's also got its run speeds. Walking forward. Was that running forward? It's walking. I'm done. 1.4 meters per second. Walking backwards is 1.15 meters per second, so there's conclusive proof that walking backwards is slower than walking forwards, which you didn't really need me to tell you, but it's there. To the sides is 1.25 meters per second, which again is conclusive proof that strafing is slower, which everyone already knew anyway, since you can prove that by just like basic measuring, but it's there in the book. What is interesting to note is that Harry also runs faster outdoors than he does indoors. It's 5 meters per second in like the outdoor areas, like the resort and the town. It's 3.5 meters when you're inside small rooms. And it's 4 meters per second inside like other areas-ish. It varies. I'm not going to get into the specifics, and also I can't be bothered trying to like live translate a Japanese book. Oh yeah, this is a glitch. We used the red liquid earlier that we got on a specific lava stalker, actually, not a random one, a specific one. That one specifically, and it skips over the fairground area and the Sybil boss fight entirely. Normally, you have to actually start the Sybil boss fight and then walk up to Sybil and then use the red liquid, and then you can skip it that way. But doing that allows you to skip the fight before it even starts. It has the effect of also bugging out the cutscene really badly, and that's really funny. But because this was like an actual run that I performed live on stream, I skipped it. I don't skip it when I'm doing like marathon runs or whatever, because it's really good. But alas, speedruns. We must go quickly. Such is the struggle of trying to be entertaining, but also actually playing a video game quickly. So this is the final area of the game, Nowhere. It consists of past areas of the game, like, pasted together in ways that don't connect, like, sensibly in terms of the spatial area. In reality, I think it's just an excuse to reuse locations, but anyway. So this... I line this up properly because of course I do, but like, if you miss that, it can be really annoying to get reoriented trying to use the pliers again. But I also think I made a slight menuing mistake there, because I always forget that because you have the receipt in your inventory from Kaufman's wallet, it juts everything in your menu one place to the right of where it would otherwise normally be, and that's very effective at screwing me over. Because I rely on things in the menu being in the same place between good plus and any %, and they're not, because some items are slightly different. So things move by like a couple of places left or right. So you can't rely on that. You have to keep point. The alert puzzle. This is also one of the few instances where knowing the solution means you can just like skip ahead. Or the solution's right next to it, you just don't have to look at it, I guess. But even so, you can still skip looking at it, which, like, if this were another Silent Hil game, it would probably randomize the solution and make you look at, like, a new randomized poem or something that tells you the solution, whereas this game's just like, nah, just go punch the solution in there. And I appreciate that, because randomized puzzles can be, like, a real downer when running games like Silent Hill 2. It's not so much of a problem when running Silent Hill 3, but Silent Hill 2 can be a real pain in the ass. This is one of the areas where if you're not using an analog stick to control the cursor, you will lose like a noticeable amount of time over someone who is, because the D-pad on that particular puzzle is so slow. It hurts my soul. And that room alone, that puzzle alone, is the reason why I don't recommend running on the PSP version of this game, even though it would be otherwise totally fine. It doesn't have an analog stick that you can use. Like, it does have an analog stick, obviously, but you kind of, like, the lack of the shoulder buttons means you kind of have to use it as, like, proxy shoulder buttons, which means you can't use it as an analog stick. Which means you don't get to have fast cursor movement, basically. You kind of just shit out of luck on that one, so you lose time by default playing on PSP. And that's the only reason I don't recommend it, otherwise it would probably work just fine. Although I don't know what the demographic is of people who can only record this game on PSP, I don't know. It's something to think about, at least. It's a thing. I consider everything. So this fridge, you gotta put a ring on it. Because if you like it, you must put a ring on it. But no, if you don't put a ring on it, it will kill you. Instantly. Without warning. And then run over, because you're dead. Because Silent Hil runs also go off the game timer, if you die at any point or quit and continue, obviously it loads a save, so it rolls the in-game time back to where it was when you hit the checkpoint or made a save, because this game does actually have checkpoints. It's got, like, auto-saving to some degree. And obviously, since that rolls the timer back, it's banned. So if you die, run over. You don't get second chances. Not that a good run would die anyway, but still, like, runs that die don't complete. They are classed as invalid. Do I get the invisible dodge? There's a dodge where you dodge around an invisible lava stalker in this area, and it very rarely works. And I get it in this run. That's good. That saves like a spicy 3 or 4 seconds or so, and it very rarely goes my way. There's a specific way in which, like, I turn my light off, I turn to the left, I wait a beat, and then I go. That seems to get it most of the time, but again, nothing's consistent. I also get the dodge on the way back, that's also good. This is actually, like, as far as the movement has been concerned, has been a very good nowhere. It's probably what kept this run afloat. So once you have all the pieces, you go for it, and you go to fight the final boss, which, as I explained, I don't know if I actually knew this at the time. I think, since this is the old ammo run, I'm just using the strategy where I ammo dump and then he'll die because I have enough ammo to just ammo dump and get away with it. But if I were using the more calculated strategy from the Silent Hil Perfect Navigation book, I would be able to finish the fight in, like, 7 shots. 8, most. 6 at the least, but, like, going for 6 is really risky, so just go for 7. It doesn't save any time if you hit 6. It just makes you ballsy. Since the fight doesn't end anyway until he starts his, like, charging lightning phase where he takes 10 times damage, you may as well wait. But I didn't know this when I did that one, so I just fire away. Hey, accurate timing. And that's the Good Plus speedrun, everyone. I ended with an RTA of 47 minutes and 15 seconds. RTA and in-game time have a loose relationship in this game. It doesn't count load times, as I've stated before, which means that, and this game loads a lot, so that's like a prominent thing. So in-game time tends to be about, depending on your console, it can be anywhere from like 14 to 20 minutes off your RTA. But the benefit of the in-game time not counting loads is that any platform is competitively viable. Any platforms game, besides probably PSP because of the stupid analog stick thing, can get world record in this game. And in fact, world records have been accomplished in this game on emulator, PS3, PS2s, PSTVs, and I think PSP at one point as well, actually, because UFO Ending doesn't do that puzzle, so it doesn't matter. Hey, this good ending cutscene, by the way, takes a while, and ending cutscenes are also not skippable, which is bull. Otherwise, I would just like to skip ahead and see my end time straight away after finishing a run, but I'm not allowed to. And I would love to do that because, like I said, RTA and IGT have a very loose relationship in this game, so sometimes I will finish a run and it'll be like -2 RTA, and I'll be like, ah, cool, what's the time? And I'll wait through the entire thing and then be like, I didn't PB IGT, I missed it by like a few seconds, and it's like, well, that was worth it, wasn't it? You can skip the CGs, so I do, but you can't skip the in-game cutscenes. And it's a longin'. Sets up the events of Silent Hil 3 nicely, though. A game which will probably be the subject of my next commentary video thing if this one is received fairly well. We'll see how I feel about it. I'm trying new things here with this style of commentary. We're just kind of chat crap over a video game for a bit. unfortunately you can skip the credits when they show up, but only if you've already got the ending registered as complete on your, like, system file, which is like a separate save file that Silent Hill keeps, but whatever, don't worry about that. So that was the Silent Hill 1 Good Plus world record, and I finished with an end IGT of, I think, 31:54. Yeah, 31:54. So do I remember my own record time? Probably not, actually. So yeah, that was the Silent Hill 1 Good Plus world record as of a date that I don't remember, but nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this post-commentary style thing as I look back on a run I did and also talk about the history of the run and also some totally unrelated crap sometimes. Maybe we'll see more of these in the future. Depends how I feel about how well this one went. Thanks for watching. And the video just restarted again. That's a take. I'm taking that take. That's a take.